Okay. So, all right, I'm recording. So here we go. La-di-dee, la-di-doo. Well, hello, everybody. This is the Gen Xer Podcast 2.0. We've got Rob Guy in the house. Y'all might remember him when we talked about George Floyd a while back. So we thought it'd be a good idea, since that's over now, bring in another good friend of mine, Greg. Greg is a friend that plays drums, and I said my church, but it's really your church because you've been there a lot longer than me.
I don't own it though, so it's okay.
That's true, but Greg Mckinley is an ex-police officer and plays the drums at my church. As I said, he is one of the best drummers I have seen. I've been around for a long time, and I was like, man, this guy can play. He's got the whole kit going in there. Thanks for being here today, Greg.
Absolutely.
We went through a lot of rigmarole just to get everybody here, all the gear, and I think everything is rolling. It seems to be. Red lights are going, and if not, then we'll just do an audio podcast. But thanks for you guys being here, for sure. Rob, I had you as Fujitsu, and you just told me that you no longer work there. So
correct.
Congratulations.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah?
Sounds good.
Hey, you were there for
24 years.
24 years.
Yep.
And you were a cop for
22 years full-time, 2 years reserve.
Now, when you say a cop, you think, what kind of cops? You were also a detective?
Correct.
So what you kind of go through the cop thing, and is that by choice or you get promoted?
Yeah, you have to put in to become a detective.
Yeah.
So
and what was it about being you kind of said that sounds like a cool job?
So honestly, at the time I had been on deep nights for a long time, and I looked like a vampire. Mm. And I had young children, and so detective work, for the most part, you can get called out at any time, but it's mostly, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 type thing, unless you get called out on an incident. And I thought, well, this would be great for the family.
Better for the family, a lot better.
Yeah, didn't really work.
Didn't work out that way because you think
it was a nice thought.
Day job, but
yeah.
Those hours really don't mean anything.
No, not really. It meant you get to work in the day and the night.
And the night.
Yes. So it was double-edged sword.
Because we watch so many movies with the cops, and the wife's like, oh, he's doing such a great thing, and
he's never home.
He's never home, and I worry about him. And there's some truth. I've watched Murtaugh, Detective Murtaugh.
Yep.
And what was it?
Riggs.
Riggs.
Yep. But Riggs was crazy.
Riggs was crazy.
Yeah.
We should have seen that coming, because all the shit that he got into later in life. I mean, it was clear in the movie that got him on the map, Lethal Weapon, and where he did the Christ movie.
Passion of the Christ.
That was
Christ,
good. Yeah. I commend him for that. But he did lose a few marbles along the way, and I wouldn't be surprised if that's just some people can't handle it. Yeah. You just crack up.
Yeah. Some of the best artists are crazy in real life.
Right? They're dysfunctional. They can't function in real life, but they're brilliant on camera.
Yep.
And that's crazy. That's a lot like me, That's
I wasn't gonna say it.
Yeah, right. So anyway, folks, we attempted to talk about the George Floyd. People are calling it the George Floyd trial. It's not. It's the Derek Chauvin trial. And so we came in, me, you, and Mark, and we talked about it. We found ourselves we said pretty much the same stuff as we did last time, which was disappointing. But at the same time, I kind of was anxious to know more.
Right.
Because I'm getting off scripts here. So now I have to follow the script, right? So I'm going to ask you a baited question. Surprised?
Yes.
You should be, because what you guys didn't see is he said Rob told us that he's going to get off. Definitely not all charges, because and you were not the only one. After we recorded that, a lot of other people said, oh, my God, yeah, there's going to be riots. It's going to be just like Rodney King all over again.
Yep. There have been too many other instances where you had clear-cut case where a police officer overstepped their bounds and regardless of race of the citizen, and suffered no consequences for it. I had no confidence that they were going to actually convict him.
Were you surprised, Greg?
No. I knew he was going to get convicted. I didn't know if it would be on all the charges. There was no doubt that there was going to be a conviction. I never doubted that for a second.
That's interesting.
As I said before, I think he should be convicted. I think he should go to jail.
No question.
But I had no confidence in the system. And it is what it is.
That is interesting. It's just you have a different perspective for sure on the matter. And I was kind of like, I think you might be right, man. And but I was praying that I was wrong. But for some reason you thought that, this time, because you've seen other cases that didn't go this way, that he got off, and it was just hypocrisy again. And wow, we've just set our society back another decade or so.
Yes. This kind of opens maybe a discussion that you've already had on one of your previous casts here. But when that incident happened, I watched it. All my cop buddies watched it. And I'm on a lot of different Facebook sites that are nothing but law enforcement. They verify who you are. And
it's like a Facebook group. Like if I'm in a musician and video camera stuff, you got one for your cops.
Right.
Very cool.
And when that happened, I never saw anybody in law enforcement that really came to his defense. I think everybody was appalled by what they saw. I think it was an inappropriate use of force, and it was certainly an inappropriate use of force for the amount of time it was used. And so...
And for the crime committed.
Yep. Yep.
Did you at all hear the other side of, wait a minute, I mean, he swallowed, did you know that he swallowed his bag of dope and that's why he couldn't breathe? And that's why he died? Did you hear stuff like, there's all sorts of stuff like that's not the reason he died.
Well, so I'm a real facts-oriented guy.
Good for you.
Yeah. I heard, first of all, I think it was pretty obvious he was under the influence of something. I mean...
How so? How would you know? Well, okay. How would you know? You're a cop. You might have better insight than me.
So as we're taught to say in court through my training and experience.
That's right.
But no, he displayed a lot of very typical signs of somebody that was on some type of
substance.
Yeah.
Did you think that he looked like he was on something?
Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm so blind. Well, how? I mean.
Well, I didn't know whether he was drunk or high, but either way, whatever he did or whatever he had taken didn't justify the way he was being treated.
Oh, definitely not. But I saw the before the footage, like him going in.
Those dances and stuff he was doing in the store.
Yeah, joking around.
All that tells you that something ain't right with him.
Really?
Whether it's a mental instability or that he was on something.
That's so crazy.
He wasn't normal.
I've gone into places like that and been joking around with someone, and I go, "Hey, look at you," and I'm like in a good mood.
And somebody probably thinks you're high.
Wow. Okay, I just will stop being happy.
Here's the deal, though. If you as an officer recognize that somebody's under the influence of something, or you can recognize that, this person is having some type of mental issue that is not correct, when you have that interaction with them, you take on some responsibility to be the stable one, to make the right decisions, because obviously they're not going to make the right decisions. So that kind of falls back onto you.
Yeah.
And there were a lot of very poor decisions made.
If you muted the audio, you didn't listen to any of the chatter online from all networks, and you just watched what happened, you would go, man, that cop's going to kill that dude. Oh, my God, he's going to kill him. You would literally go, that wasn't right. That dude died? Mm-hmm. That cop was in the wrong. Just pure common sense.
Yep.
Would you agree with that, too? Just
Yes, I think every police officer across the country looked at that and said that was wrong, and it was inappropriate, and it was hard to watch. Even for officers, that was a little hard to watch. And I've seen some horrific things in my career, but it was hard to watch. And I really, at the time, I thought that when all the riots and everything broke out, which I can't condone rioting because you're just damaging someone else's property, but I understand the frustration where it came from. But I feel that at the moment it was a little bit of a missed opportunity because I think for just a moment in time, you had the police and the public on the same page.
Yeah.
And we missed the opportunity to really talk.
Yep.
Because we basically had to go to war for a little while to
Good to put up our armor, put up our wall.
Deal with this whole thing. And I think now, I hope that it's coming full circle and we can start talking some of these things out.
Yeah.
There's a lot of issues in law enforcement right now. A lot of problems with policing, the way it's being done, the people they're choosing to hire, the training that they're giving them, while at the same time, it's being compounded by a world we live in where we don't have respect for anybody. We don't have respect for ourselves. We don't have respect for each other.
Yeah.
We're punching each other out in the lines at restaurants. We're pointing guns at each other going down the road. And so we as a society have just lost any sense of respect and decorum.
Yeah, this is recently. I mean, you're saying probably within the last, what?
Probably 10 years.
Yeah.
But maybe even sooner. You're thinking probably more in the last couple.
Well, I mean, that kind of stuff happened. All that road rage stuff, there used to be a specific road rage detail that you could work overtime, and because road rage became a thing, and that was probably mid to late 90s. But
maybe I sensed what you were saying, and maybe I was wrong, but it feels like to me
we've hit an exponential curve
within the last 8 months.
It's been ramping up. This has been ramping up, and like anything, whether it's going up or going down, you always reach this exponential point. And that's where we are right now.
Right.
Whether it be with this cancel culture that's going on, or the lack of respect for anybody or authority or life or anything like that, we're on this weird exponential curve right now. And
so, is it a coincidence that Donald Trump was the president for 4 years, that the division of our country has been more divided now than it seems to be than in a long time?
No, it's not a coincidence. He encouraged it.
Okay, so
he stirred the pot.
So in my mind, okay, I don't want to get political because I have my opinions about that man that I don't like to talk about. But I do know that I'm learning, Rob. I used to get on my soapbox.
Yeah.
But I've had conversations with my dad, who liked Trump. I've had conversations with other people who supported Trump, and it boggles my mind.
There's some of his policies that I have no issue with.
But
the way he carried out,
a
lot of the things he did, the arrogant, pompous, divisive way that he handled people, whether it's the making fun of the handicapped guy, or the insisting on calling coronavirus a China virus, and just, for lack of a better word, just being an asshole. And what he did was he stirred up the asshole in so many of his supporters.
Yeah, a lot of people,
and they thought it was okay to just walk around and treat people any kind of way because the leader of this nation was treating people any kind of way.
Now, I will tell you,
from the reporters to staff to everybody around him.
I know that there are a large percentage. I would go as far as to say half of the country who would say, "Oh my God, that guy is blind. I mean, he did some really great things." And that's the part that I struggle with. That's why I don't like talking about it. Because
and he took credit for some shit that he didn't do. But
of course,
I digress.
But
that's a politician, though, right there.
You look
They're
at
always gonna take
Reagan.
credit.
You look at Clinton. You can look back and there's criticism to go all around.
Yep.
But the original question was, the fact that some of these things that we're seeing after the George Floyd incident and the Derek Chauvin. Tell me how it's pronounced.
But it's actually French. It's French and it means murderer.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, he's good.
Okay, good. So
But that was good.
that was really good.
That was good. You got Doug.
It's something that I'm curious about because the election and the whole debate, and once the new power came into being and Biden is now our president, it's going to take some time for everybody to kind of go, okay. Some people are like not crazy about Biden, but I'm glad Trump's out. Other people are like, we got Biden. Let's just hope that we can hold on for another 4 years. Whatever the case may be. This is about police profiling. You got people going, white lives matter, cops' lives matter.
That's the assholishness.
That is the, you know what? Then guess what? I can fire right back at you and push that button. It's a race button. And we use the word race, but it really is bias. It's the bias deal. So
we'll agree. We'll agree to disagree.
Okay.
This is kind of tribalism. So we've reached the point right now where we can't sit down and have rational discussions with each other.
That's crazy, isn't
and
it?
so we're starting to break up into our tribes. And that is, if I'm a cop supporter and you say Black Lives Matter, I'm going to say Cops Lives Matter, and or White Lives Matter, or All Lives Matter, or whatever it is, instead of just saying, I hear you. Like, let's sit down and talk about this.
Yep.
That's so true.
Sometimes you have to give people, especially when emotions are raw, you have to give people room and grace to express what they're feeling.
Exactly.
Whether or not you agree with it, let them express it and then sit down and talk about it. So,
or let them express it and leave it alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is it that you said you agree to disagree? What did I say that you didn't agree with?
You said that it's not racism.
Okay. So
I disagree with Tim Scott. I disagree with Kamala Harris. This is a racist country.
So
This country
when we
was
say
the foundation
racist,
of this country is on racism.
Racist to me, and tell me if my understanding of being racist is that there's a supreme race, and anything other than that race, which in this case is the white race, which by the way came from Europe. Okay, you can go Irish, but which are it's a melting pot. We're a melting pot. But racist is no matter what, the white race is supreme in this case for racism, and that every other race should be eliminated.
Well,
Is that not true?
Not
or suppressed or not included into?
See, what you're doing is you're switching up racism with white supremacy. Those are two different things. While racism is based on kind of a founded with supported by white supremacy, some of the racist let's go for, as a matter of fact, go back to Jim Crow laws, and let's go back to a lot of the structure that was built in this country was based off of race. If you're a former slave, which means you're black, you can't do this, this, and this. If you can't be a landowner, you can't do this and that and the other. Those things were all based off of race. That's why I say this country was based. The foundation of this country is on racism, and there are those who still have a stronghold and still hold on to a lot of those things. Even across the South, the problem a lot of people who look like me have with police is back in the day, who enforced Jim Crow? Who were the slave catchers? Who were the ones who kept black people in their place? The police. And then when you have situations where you see videos almost every day where cops will just go through a black neighborhood, see 3 kids standing on the sidewalk, and harass the hell out of them for no reason. It's the tendencies, the practices, and again, I mean, anybody who knows me knows I got friends and I got family who are in law enforcement. Hell, I own a security company, so I have to deal with law enforcement.
Yeah.
So I don't feel this way about all police.
Yeah.
But there are folks in the system who do what they do because they're dealing with black or brown or whoever else.
Does that come from somewhere higher than the local police department, in your opinion? Or is it systemic? Because that word systemic is now being used more.
The justice system in this country is racist. And let's go back to even with the 93 crime bill, where you have the same amount
Greg squirming.
where you got the same amount of cocaine.
I'm familiar with this, so go ahead.
You got the same amount of cocaine as you have crack when you put it on a scale, but one carries a 5-year sentence, the other one carries, probation. One is not primarily used in poor black communities. The other one's used by rich white people.
Very familiar with the crack, cocaine in the 80s.
There are rules,
with the Reagan, the arms, and the cocaine, and the intention behind introducing crack cocaine into certain segments of our population.
Well, yeah, and even when you look at in Texas, you can put an AK-47 on your back and walk down Preston Road. If I put an AK-47 on my back and walk down Preston Road, people will react differently.
Yeah.
The cops will react differently. The community is going to react differently. So it's
been this way for a long.
Yeah.
So this is part of the discussion. Mm-hmm. It's actually going in a different direction than I intended.
Okay.
Which is okay because it takes a life of its own. Because I always am very fascinated, and I'm also curious and want to get to understanding this thing we call racism. I feel like I'm being manipulated as a consumer of watching content.
You are.
And I'm trying to navigate like I feel about this. I know I'm logical. I've got morals. I'm a Christian man. And I see things happening that I don't agree with. And so, but what I see on TV is a whole nother thing. Before we get into a rabbit hole, let's just put this George Floyd thing to rest for this podcast by watching this clip.
Members of the jury, I understand you have a verdict. Members of the jury, I will now read the verdicts as they will appear in the permanent records of the 4th Judicial District. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1, unintentional second-degree murder while committing a felony, find the defendant guilty. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 2, third-degree murder, perpetrating an eminently dangerous act, find the defendant guilty. Same caption, verdict count 3. We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 3, second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence.
I'm wondering what he's thinking right now.
Find the defendant guilty. This verdict agreed to this 20th day of April, 2021.
He's looking
8
like,
weeks from
is
now,
this really
we will
happening?
have
Yeah, he's
sentencing.
confused.
Yeah.
Bail is revoked, bond is discharged, and the defendant is remanded to the custody of the Hennepin County Sheriff. Anything further?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, hold on. I'm now like, I cut this clip. Thanks, ITV News. I just looked on YouTube, found this clip, and there he goes out. He was once a police officer in charge of, protecting citizens, and now he is convicted of a murder, which I think is appropriate. We haven't heard of the sentencing yet, and has anybody heard anything new? I think, Rob, you'd mentioned that there's an appeal.
They came on the news today and said that his legal team have filed for a new trial because they're saying that because it was actually held in Minneapolis that there was bias and it should have been moved to a different venue. And the second thing they're saying is, what was it? Oh, that the jury wasn't sequestered, and therefore they may have been tainted or influenced by media.
Thoughts?
I think that they should have allowed a change of venue, and they should have sequestered. Only, not that everybody hasn't heard about this case. I mean,
it's worldwide.
Everybody knows. But by not allowing a change of venue and not sequestering, you are opening the door
For
to
this.
yes to
Circus.
these appeals. So,
Is it going to get retried?
who knows?
Yeah, it wouldn't.
To me, it seems almost unanimous. Even cops, even white guys, girls, every culture goes, yeah, that was pretty screwed up, and he probably got what he deserved. If they were to overturn the majority opinion on this, oh my God, I can only imagine what would happen.
I mean, technically, they wouldn't be overturning it. They'd just be granting a new trial.
A new trial, but still, that means he's got a chance. But
Yeah, he
I don't
gets a
see
second shot at it.
Yeah, I don't see a jury in America saying he's not guilty.
I agree, but guess what?
But again, I was cynical the first time.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll win any appeals. I just think that they should have looked down the road a little further. They knew no matter what the verdict was, they're going to appeal it.
Yep.
So why?
Give them an opportunity.
Yeah, you're just opening the door.
Yep.
I feel like, which is a lot of times in society nowadays, is this happened here. We're gonna do it here, and I'm gonna show you.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the guy deserved to be shown, but somebody's got to take the high road and make sure we.
That's a good
Make sure
point.
you do it the right way.
That's what we have about George Floyd. We will see how this develops over time. We'll be right back after these messages.
A lot of these interactions escalate to the point they do, and it comes from chiefs not being chiefs and a role model. They're now administrators and politicians. They don't lead from the top down. It comes
So it's
from
an organizational dysfunction.
yes. It also comes from hiring the wrong people nowadays.
Yeah.
They are looking for the wrong qualities in law enforcement.
Guess what? In business, because now I'm relating to you because I've worked for companies who've made the bad decisions on hiring people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That have had bad CEOs that trickled down into dysfunctional and morale was way low. The consequences were their clientele and maybe the business itself. But when you're talking about a police department, which it runs by kind of like a business, you got top, and you get layers, and you got all that stuff in there. Have you had experiences where morale was low?
Well, morale is generally low in law enforcement because all you do all day is go from one situation to another
Problem after problem.
where you're dealing with people probably at their lowest point in their life. If law enforcement has come into your life, something's probably gone wrong.
Right.
You know, firemen
So
are...
how do they manage that? You were a product of working for a police department, and you got to witness, my boss or my boss's boss or the head guy. You might in your mind have thought, well, it's kind of because of this guy. Or how do you, and do you, as other coworkers, because I think that there's a mentality, a stereotype mentality, that the cops are kind of like a gang. Right, I think of jocks. When you're in a locker room with in football, whatever sport you're playing, you razz each other. You kind of, being a cop, you don't have to have a college degree. So, but it's a respectable position to be into. A lot of spouses say, "Man, my husband's a police officer," and they take pride in that. But there's a mentality of, and it's mostly men that have this kind of gang mentality. Is that something that you're shaking your head?
It's the biggest gang in the world, police department.
And
I actually used to have a shirt that said that.
is that right?
Yeah, it used to say the biggest gang in the world, police. And I think that when that first came out, it kind of was like a tongue-in-cheek thing. That was when that saying when I first saw it, it came out in the mid to late 80s. That was a time of explosion of gangs, organized gangs and stuff like that. We just saw Los Angeles, New York, all the major cities were seeing such an increase in gangs. I think that when that first came out, it was very tongue-in-cheek, that we're the biggest gang, that type of thing. So here's what I want to say. I cannot speak for everybody in law enforcement.
Right.
I can only speak for myself. I can speak for the officers that I worked closely with, officers that I trained, officers that I supervised. There were bad apples. A lot of times they weeded themselves out.
But you saw things or heard of things that they did based on their partner or whatever came to be.
If I saw it, I would step in.
But how many others would? That's part of the problem.
Yeah,
Because it's that whole thing of, man, as soon as you try to be that good cop, clean cop, man, they're going to tear you up.
Well, I think it depends on your hierarchy in the department.
Sure.
If you're an officer that's been there a long time and respected, and you get in somebody's grill because they're out of line, you're good. If you've been there 2 years and you're just glad to be off probation, you might keep your mouth shut. But
that leads to a culture issue.
So,
Yeah.
culture is the word I was going to use. Let me get back to what we first started at.
Okay.
So, the problem in police departments today is their culture.
Yep.
You can go to one police department, and the culture of that department can be toxic. And you could go to the very neighboring city, and the culture of that police department be completely different. And I believe the problem starts at the top. There has been a move, and it started in the early 90s, where used to the police chief was the police chief. He set the tone. He said what he was going to accept and what he was not going to accept. He had his hand in firing people.
The buck stopped there.
Yeah. Then it started morphing as we began to professionalize law enforcement, that it became more of an administrator, and then it almost became political. And the problem with that is when you do that, you remove yourself from being chief, and you're now just the administrator. You've got minions under you that are taking care of this and that. But now
You're now resorting to higher authority. Well, look, my boss is on my ass, and you guys just need to do what I'm telling you to do, opposed to the buck stops here.
Right. But the chief used to set the culture for the department. Like, everybody wanted to do what the chief would want us to do, because whether you're talking about law enforcement or your job or your job,
you really wanted to do it.
Well, yeah,
make him proud.
You want your boss to think that you're worth something, right?
Right.
But if your boss is absent,
Then you have nobody to.
you're free to
perform
make
for.
your own assumptions as
Right.
to what's okay.
Yeah.
And
When that becomes.
they
a
also
guy next to
write
you.
policies nowadays that are so ambiguous that they could be interpreted either way. I've also seen where they make one policy that says you'll do it this way, and another policy that says you'll do it this way, but they're both still on the books. And I've witnessed this where if they think you're right and they think that it's worth weathering the storm, they'll write it. But, you know, if the political heat's too much, or they didn't like you as a person or whatever, they'll cut you, because things are open to interpretation.
Right.
You know,
Right.
do we want to do this or do we not? I had a lieutenant that I worked for that had a sign in his office that said "Vague is good."
And that's the most idiotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's how we wind up with some.
Expound on that.
Yeah.
What
Well-
does that mean? What would that mean?
so in a police department, you have officer, you have a corporal or senior corporal, you have sergeant, and then you have a lieutenant. Lieutenant's getting up there in the brass, okay? when you have a lieutenant that his philosophy is vague is good, in other words, I'm not going to say one way or the other, and that way you can't hold me to it.
Yep.
Whichever way the wind blows depends on where I'm going to stand.
Yeah,
It
it's
depends on the
horrible.
situation and how I feel today.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
All right, so let's watch this.
Turn it off.
I can keep recording you.
Turn it off and take a jail.
Here's a white dude.
Hey, Bob, turn that off, okay?
No, I'll keep recording. Thank you. It's my right.
Don't record me, you got me?
I will look. You're a police officer on duty. I can record you. And if you come to this side of the vehicle,
Careful,
I
because
can
there's a
keep
new law.
recording you.
Turn it off.
I can keep
Turn it
recording you.
off. Turn it off and take a jail.
For recording you, I'm
Yes.
sitting in my car. I'm holding my
You know how to
phone.
record me.
What is the law? What are you arresting me for? I'm sitting here in my car. I'm just recording in case anything happens. I'm surrounded by 5 police officers.
You're being a jerk.
I'm scared right now. I'm not being a jerk. I'm recording it in case anything happens.
So you better hope we don't find something in your car, okay?
They're not searching my car
Well, I'm
because
gonna search your car.
God,
you're not searching my car.
What was that?
Watch this. K9.
Yeah, roll canine this way, please.
Bring the canines. I don't care, man. Like, I know my rights.
Hey, I hope so. I know what the law is.
I know the law. I'm an attorney, so I would hope I know the law.
And an Uber driver?
And here, man.
And an Uber driver.
You want my bar card?
Wow.
He was bold to reach for his bar card.
Keep it going. Okay.
So if he didn't consent to a search, then what were they doing? He said, you can't search my car, but am I wrong? Were they not searching his car?
Well, what are our rights, and how do we know? Like, can you? Who was wrong in this case?
The cops.
Okay, let me address several things here, and I need to say this because I'm gonna call what's wrong and what's right's right.
Yep.
And I'm not bashing my
That's why I wanted you on the show.
Ex-profession.
I know.
But so here's the deal. He's standing there telling a guy, "Don't video me," while he's wearing a body camera.
Yeah.
Like, I saw it right on his chest. And unless they're in some state where there is some bizarre state law that says you can't do that, but I can't imagine that. Everybody knows that
Is it provoking a cop though? I mean, like
Well, it
pulling me
obviously
over.
provoked that guy.
Right. And I'm literally going, go ahead, and I'm putting the phone or the camera between you and me, and now I'm actually got a chip on my shoulder.
Well, I use the same phrase they use when they ask, "Can I search your car?" No. Well, you got anything to hide? How stupid is that? Just because I don't want you to search my car doesn't mean I don't have that I have something to hide. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. This case,
And
this
All right,
guy,
that's the same with the
can
camera.
I'm going
You
to
got something
address
to hide,
this.
so-
I'm going to address this twofold.
how could it have gone differently?
So one, I'm going to not agree with the officer, and the other, I will agree with the officer from a legal standpoint. So the first thing is how you're handling this. We've said already that this is the same argument of, why did you stop me? Give me your license. Why did you? This is the impasse where neither one's gonna give, but it falls upon the officer to be the bigger person.
I was going to say,
To
what should the cop
be
have
the
done?
cooler head.
He's a professional.
Yes, and that looked not good.
I mean, because
It
in my
didn't make us
mind,
look
I'm
good.
thinking the cop should have said, I notice you're recording me, and that's totally fine. That's your right. The reason we're approaching you is because we had a complaint. We're wondering, you've been here for a while. We smell marijuana. I don't know. Whatever
Yeah,
the reason is.
I don't even know why they stopped him.
Right.
I don't know if
We
he
don't
was
know.
speeding or it was on a call. So
Right.
I can't speak to that. Now, the can they search the car thing. So this is where I said I might agree with him on a legal standpoint. So legally, if you have someone lawfully detained in a vehicle, you can have a canine walk around the exterior of the vehicle and sniff it. And if it alerts, that does give you probable cause to believe there might be contraband in the car. Since it's normally, if you have probable cause to believe there is contraband in something, you would use that probable cause to get a search warrant. It being a vehicle creates what's called exigent circumstances. In other words, if I leave to go get a warrant, obviously this guy's not going to be parked here when I get back, right?
Right.
So if you have probable cause, you could search the vehicle. You can also do what's called a Terry frisk of a vehicle or of a person. In other words, if I have lawfully detained you, I have the right to pat you down for weapons. I also have the right to check an area within your immediate reach. So you can do two things. If you're going to leave them in the car, you can have them step out and check the immediate area. So in other words, under the edge of their seat, their little center console, make sure there's not a weapon. But the purpose in you doing that is that you're then going to put them back in the car, and that way you're assuring that you're
that's all
safe
technicalities.
Right.
To me, the point that the cop seemed to have gotten a chip on his shoulder and got angry when he realized the guy was filming him, because it escalated from there.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it was not, it wasn't, he didn't, there's no reason to search his car based on what we saw, right?
Well, sure there is. He ticked him off. And
He ticked him off.
So
So
that's
I'm
what
gonna
the
get-
cops doing.
Yeah.
So you're going to be here for an hour and a half while we wait for a canine unit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it just escalated. Like you're saying, Greg, is that the cop should have been the bigger person and said, you know, you're more than welcome. And we didn't get ever to the reason, because it escalated so quickly because this guy put a camera between him and the cop. Then the cop had a problem with it, and then it went south. Right.
And then he questioned whether he was a lawyer or not, because he was an Uber
Oh, you're
driver.
an Uber driver, huh?
Oh, he didn't want to even see his bar card.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
He's
just
like, you want to see my bar card? And the cop's like, I'm just
No,
gonna look
no.
over here
I
for
know
a minute.
several attorneys who are Uber drivers
right.
here in Dallas.
So that cop obviously wanted people to bow down to him. I am the law. You shouldn't be questioning. You shouldn't. If I tell you to turn the camera off, you better turn the camera off. And if
He's
not,
got a
I'm gonna make
badge
your
and a
life
gun.
hell.
Yeah.
So I have to preface this. As we go through this, I have to preface this. We're watching videos of cops behaving badly.
Yes.
There are almost 1 million police officers in the United States. 90+% of them go to work and do a good job.
That is, I believe that 100%. The part that confuses me, and it makes sense because it's the media, okay? Because we hear about right now the media is YouTube. Because I wanted to prove a point here. I wanted to discuss some things, show some things, get our reaction to it, because I think a lot of the American people would see that and react in different ways. I agree with you that most police officers are in it for the right reason, and it's good TV to see them acting badly. It's just it's entertaining.
Well, the idiotic thing is they know they're being recorded, but they still act badly.
Yeah,
like the idiots over in the Carolinas who sprayed the lieutenant with the pepper spray. You know, you knew you were being recorded. You got your body cams on. You knew you being recorded, but you still do stupid stuff.
Were you part of National Night Out?
Yes.
Tell us some things that you were involved with that doesn't get pressed because it's warm and fuzzy. My wife, who works with you, mentioned something about mowing ladies' yards and helping. Tell me things that most people don't realize that police officers do in the community.
So I have, on more than one occasion with different people, elderly ladies, I've gone and mowed their yard for them. These are in very bad neighborhoods, and I have helped fix up their house. I've helped fix up their fence. Sometimes on Christmas, as a bonus, we would get these silly like gift cards to Minyards or whatever for $100, and we would take them, myself and most of the people on my squad. $100 to us is not what $100 is to some other people. And so we would get them for Christmas, and we would wait till we went on a call where we would go in and people were having an issue, and there's kids, and there's no Christmas tree, there's no presents, there's hardly any food in the house. We would wind up giving our cards to these people to try to help. And in return, I would get called back to, a house or whatever, and they had made me a cake or something, because they wanted to do repay it
thank you.
in some way.
Yeah.
And really, to be real honest with you, there's a lot of that goes on. I went to a burglary call. This poor old lady, the only joy she had in her life was watching her soap operas during the day, and somebody broke in and stole her TV. I went and bought a TV and brought it back to her.
So that is just a chip of the iceberg here, that I've heard not just from you but from other cops that I know, that you never hear about those things. And so yes, I think that's very important for people to understand, is that we see all the negative things on the press, on the news and in the media, and we see it on YouTube. And look, I mean, I could have kept going. I could have spent weeks finding all these bad cops, right? But I think it's very important to know you're not going to see clips of police mowing old ladies' yards in a bad neighborhood or doing the right thing, because it just doesn't sell newspapers. It doesn't sell sponsorships. Okay.
Well, and to be perfectly honest, a lot of people, myself included, are not media driven. We go by personal experience.
Right.
To be perfectly honest, I'm of the mindset, if I get pulled over or if I have an interaction with police, unless I personally know him, I don't trust him. I don't. And I personally know several, and they know that if I don't personally know, I don't trust you, because I've never had a positive interaction with police. And,
if you had half,
and you've known me for,
yes, I have.
You've known me for 20 years.
Yes,
I'm the furthest from gangster that you will ever meet.
Yeah,
but I've never had a positive interaction with police. It's always the get out of your car, put your hands behind your head, get on your knees. Then guy threatens to pull his gun out because I refuse to get on my knees. He won't tell me what I got pulled over for. All that kind of crap. And no, I've never had a positive interaction with police.
I know you want to say something, but this goes along with right what you say. Mm-hmm. Watch this.
What's your name?
Malcolm.
Yes. What's your last name? Malcolm Ziegler?
Yeah.
Okay. You got your ID on you?
No, I do not.
Okay.
But that wasn't us riding. We haven't rode at all this week.
Where do you stay? You stay here?
Yeah.
Okay.
I haven't read it all today. He literally just came by here.
Who's that guy? Who's that guy running down the street?
That's his friend. They stay somewhere up there.
Okay. Do me a favor, man. Go ahead and put your hands behind your back for me, okay?
Yep. I did.
You're in possession of a stolen motor vehicle.
What?
Diggs, you want to go and verify that for me?
Yeah. What?
Do me a favor, man. Just come to my car right over here, okay?
What the? Can I get the bill of sale and show you that I bought it?
Yeah. We'll get all that taken care of, man. But what I need to do is just hang tight for me right here, okay?
Oh gosh, what did I do?
Just hang tight for me right here, okay? So here's what's going on, okay? So that vehicle's been entered as stolen.
What?
Okay.
Which one?
The dirt bike right over there, the Suzuki.
Uh huh.
So I know you've been trying to sell it on Facebook Marketplace.
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's been reported stolen. It's been entered as stolen. So right now you are in possession of a stolen motor vehicle.
Well, can I show you the bill of sale from where I bought it?
Absolutely. You can definitely show me that.
Right. I mean, I did not steal it. I can show you.
Where's the bill of sale at?
I think it's in my house somewhere.
Okay, so here's what's going to go ahead and happen. Just hang tight for me. Matter of fact, do me a favor, sir. Go ahead and step right here.
Now I'm going to stop this for a second because you've made me aware of this, Rob, and some other folks. This is this guy's home. His house is right there, and you're going to learn here in a minute that this is what this kid does. You don't know yet. This 14-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. He buys broken down motorcycles, fixes them, sells them on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So this is the part that always affects me, because I think of the neighbors who are looking out the window. Mm-hmm. They're never going to get that. Oh, look at that! Look at some. I knew that kid was, whatever the biases are. is being reinforced by the dehumiliation, dehumanizing of this kid. So anyway, I just wanted to say, because it looks like a nice neighborhood, a neighborhood like I would live in right now.
You can't take that back.
What's that?
I said you can't take back what the passersby or the neighbors see.
That's it.
When they see him handcuffed and put in the back of the car. You can't take that back.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah. I edited this, so it shouldn't be.
2 males, 1095. Hey,
Is he detained or is he?
he's detained right now because he is.
He's 14.
14.
He's 14.
Yes.
Okay.
14.
So I already explained to him he's detained right now. I told him that
So why is he detained?
because that's a stolen motor vehicle.
Okay. So
I mean, Diggs verified the VIN number, right?
did you? Is that before all that you verified before you?
I detained him and then
Okay,
we
that's why I
verified.
asked if he was 1095 or detained.
He's detained.
Okay. So obviously he's a juvenile, right?
Yeah.
You're not charging him with larceny of a.
Nope.
Okay, because obviously that didn't happen.
Yep.
Here. So worst you have is what?
Possession of a stolen motor vehicle.
Which is you gonna think you get secure custody and all that?
Probably
Or a
not.
petition. All right. You're 14. Me personally, he ain't going nowhere. You're here with what, Dad?
Mm-hmm.
Ain't no sense of having him sit in the car with handcuffs on.
Okay.
You ain't. If he was 18, and you might be taken to jail for possession of stolen property,
All right.
different. But you ain't gonna take him to jail, right? It's gonna be a petition.
I'll go ahead and take him out. Question for you. So supposedly, I know they're working on getting the bill of sale right now. I haven't asked him any questions, but he's been running his mouth. He said that he got it from some guy off in Lillington. Okay. My whole thing is, I know legally he can still be charged.
Yeah. If he's got a bill of sale, me personally,
Yeah.
I have grown up racing dirt bikes, buying 4-wheelers. I got 3 4-wheelers at the house now.
Yeah.
I've never once had one run until I was a cop.
Yep.
Most people don't even know how to tell if one's stolen or not. Besides, you get a bill of sale and you think it's not stolen because you got a bill of sale and that VIN matches and you're on your way.
Yeah.
Diggs caught this guy for it. That's what he buys. He buys bikes that has problems, fixes them, sells them, flips them. That's what he does.
That cop knows about this kid.
Yeah. Well, and that's because of he does it. Like you just said,
Right.
he rides
He wouldn't
dirt
have-
bikes and 4-wheelers. If he wasn't in that environment or in that, doing that, then he probably wouldn't know the background on this kid.
So now it looks like they're going, okay, sorry about
Lean
this.
forward so I can get the key, okay? Separate your hands as well, too.
So I can tell you exactly what's going on here. So first of all, I commend that young man. He was very respectful, very calm.
Mm-hmm.
The officer was actually respectful to him too. Called him sir.
Yep.
Wasn't heavy-handed. It is obvious by the second officer that walked up without rank but looked older and started kind of quizzing him on some things that the first officer that put him in handcuffs is a rookie.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
That sounded like he's like, here's what I did, and he's like, I don't think I would have done that.
There's no reason to just walk up and put people in handcuffs. I mean, again, like you brought up before, when the neighbors look out the window, they're gonna always have that vision of this 14-year-old kid with handcuffs on, and when somebody, that's
Do cops
that
know
troubled
that, Greg?
kid.
Do cops know? Does it occur to a police officer when they're doing something and the guy says, I stay right here, that what they're doing to that young man is going to have a long-lasting impression, not only on him moving forward about trust for police officers, but two, that the dehumanizing, the put your cuffs, he had a hoodie on, there's stereotype. He was black, stereotype. He wasn't doing nothing wrong. He lived there.
So, okay, the clip answers that question. Do cops realize that? The second cop did. It was very evident the second cop was,
Is that part of
was
training?
on
I
point.
mean, to me,
It's training and experience.
I mean, when I start the police academy and they say, okay, when you pull people over, when you're called and you respond to a call, one of the things that you guys need to realize is that if it's a black person, a minority person in their neighborhood, if you cuff them away, you have to understand what that does to them. I mean, is
And-
that
and
a
it's-
psyche thing?
It's not just in your neighborhood, because what happened to me
at
was
7-Eleven.
was at racetrack,
A racetrack.
right outside my job,
Yeah,
and
right.
I had coworkers passing.
And
by.
I don't even think
was
this is.
bullshit.
That's right.
I don't even think this is a race thing
No,
here.
it's a-
whether or
it's a
not you
police-
realize the impact it has on somebody when they're humiliated in front of people, whether it be in your neighborhood or a racetrack or whatever. I think this police officer thought he was doing the right thing. He is obviously a rookie. He is looking very small picture, letter of the law, that type of thing.
I think you're exactly right. Obviously, he's like, it's almost like his first week on the job, and he's got to look like he knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Here's the deal. We talked before we started this about. I was told this when I was in training, and I told everyone else I ever trained. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Exactly. Exactly.
Having said that, I don't think this police officer was on face value. Being a police officer myself,
I think he made an honest mistake.
I don't even think it was a mistake of law. I think it was
approach, behavior.
I think it was a lack of experience in slowing down. There are.
You don't think that was a what he did to that kid and the neighbors and the whole thing?
I said it wasn't a mistake of law.
Do you think it was a mistake of character, of human behavior?
I don't. Okay, so when you say the word, is it a mistake of character? Are you? The question would be, are you saying the character of the officer?
Okay, so let's remove character.
Just a bad decision.
It's a bad decision. At the very beginning. Go ahead and turn around. Let me put the handcuffs on you.
It was not the
He
best
wasn't
way to
resisting.
handle it.
Because the last thing I'm gonna want to do is cooperate with you when you walk up and put me in handcuffs. The last thing I want to do is have a conversation
in my
with you.
neighborhood.
Okay,
I don't care where I am.
But here's the deal: we're like, picking and choosing what we want to do with these videos. Like, we had an issue in the LAPD video where it's like, if they just would have talked to him sensibly, and if they would have explained what they're doing, then this would be totally different. Well, this officer did that. He spoke to him very respectfully.
Yeah.
He explained what he was
That's
doing.
true.
He was doing that kind of thing. So it's very easy
in both
to
instances,
keep taking these little snippets.
In
ripping
both
them.
instances, I stated there's no reason to put me in cuffs just to ask me some questions.
Well, but here's the deal.
And that's my problem.
He didn't put him. So when he said he was 1095, that means that he's arrested that guy. Okay. So in other words,
What do you mean? That kid had been arrested before?
No. When that officer put the handcuffs on him, he said, "You're under arrest." And then he told dispatch that he was 1095 with that person.
Okay.
In other words, he's telling the person that he's arrested him. So putting somebody that you've arrested in
that's
handcuffs
different then. Yeah.
is not a problem.
Yeah.
Now, what the other officer was coming up there saying,
You shouldn't have
was-
arrested him. Was that what he was saying?
so
Kinda.
he was in the most
Delicate.
old cop way trying to say, let's think this through, my friend.
Right.
Yep.
You could
Because
tell.
here's the deal.
He's a minor.
Yeah.
That cop's not going to lose his job over this. Over that cop is not going to lose his job.
Right.
So which would you like for him to learn a lesson so that he doesn't do the exact same behavior again? Or do you just want nobody to say anything and him get an internal affairs complaint and then he becomes jaded and that type of thing? I think that second cop that walked up, I mean, I understand the embarrassment for
Yeah.
that young man.
Yeah.
I do. I do understand the embarrassment. So I don't negate that. But if we're talking about the actions of the officer, were they legal? Were they justified? Did he behave in a professional manner? He did.
Oh yeah, all that.
He
checked
may
those
not
boxes.
have just made all the best decisions, but man,
If
my hat's off to that other officer that walked up
Yeah.
and said, "Let's think this through."
Yeah.
And he said, even if you're going to arrest him and this is the case in almost every state, you can either arrest a juvenile and take them to juvenile detention, or you can release them back to their parents and file whatever charges you want to. And he's saying, look,
The dad's in the home.
let's just give this guy back to his parents. We can do some more looking into it. If you're going to file a charge, we can file a charge later.
Now, I'm gonna speculate here. If that young 14-year-old boy was a white dude, didn't have a hoodie on, was wearing khakis and a button-down shirt, and he was in possession of a stolen vehicle,
Yes.
Would he have been cuffed right away?
That depends on whether he lived in East Dallas or Highland Park.
So I know that there's not a right or wrong answer, or it's speculative, right? I think that's a leading question. I think it's a very but are there people who would go, I would be willing to bet if this was stolen, I need to cuff this black kid because of the way he looks. I mean, I'm saying this because
trying to prove a point.
Huh?
Trying to prove a point.
I don't think
that was the case with this.
No.
He was. I agree with Greg on this one. I think he's fresh out of the academy, and if this happens, it's kind of like somebody in a call center. If this happens, then you do this. If this happens, then you do that.
Curious about
Yeah.
the decision.
Well, I didn't know until he explained what 1095 meant that he was actually arresting him.
Yeah.
So him putting him under arrest, then that's why he was arresting.
Why
him.
would you need to put somebody if on that motorcycle that was in the driveway that he saw apparently was selling on Facebook Marketplace, that he obviously goes, that's the guy, that's the motorcycle, we got him, we're going to put him under arrest. That was a presumption. So
and then they verified after they put him in the car with the VIN number that was the actual motorcycle.
Yeah. So the decision to arrest is a part I'm just curious about. How do you determine?
So
whether,
is your question what the decision to arrest or the decision to handcuff?
Right now? Well, because they go hand in hand, right? You can't handcuff him unless he's.
No, you can handcuff somebody that's not under arrest.
Yeah.
But the reason, what we're saying now is the reason he handcuffed him is because he was under arrest.
Right.
Yes.
So why did they put him under arrest? And what does it mean when you are under arrest? Does it mean you did something wrong? I can prove it, or we're gonna go the distance.
Yeah. Okay. So
because I never know what that means. You're under arrest.
I'm going to speak to Texas law.
Okay.
There's what's called a temporary detention, and then there's under arrest. So temporary detention means that you are actually investigating some offense, and while I'm investigating it, you are not allowed to leave. That is a temporary detention. You can handcuff somebody legally that is detained.
Okay.
Under arrest is when you have established probable cause. In other words, it has met all the elements of the offense for whatever it is, theft, robbery, whatever.
Is follow that by you have the right to remain silent. That's something different. That's the Miranda rights.
That's a whole other thing.
Okay.
So
All right, sorry.
here's the deal.
That's stupid.
No.
I really just don't. Yeah.
No,
Curious.
you're fine. A lot of people, because I dealt with that before, is people would get to jail and be like, you didn't read me my rights, you got to let me go. I didn't ask you any questions. So Miranda is only when you're going to do an interrogation. In other words, a custodial interrogation. When you read Miranda can be interpreted by courts. Some judge might say you had to do it during the temporary detention. Other judges may say you don't have to do it until they're under arrest. That's kind of a gray line.
But being under arrest means something. It means that I can't. What does it mean for that
It
kid?
means you're going to jail.
Does that mean you're going to
It means
jail?
you're going to jail. A temporary detention, you're not allowed to leave.
Wow. So they literally thought. I mean, because again, probable cause, stolen vehicle. There's the guy who's selling it.
Right, and he's got it on Facebook,
I got it
and
on
he's telling you
Facebook,
that it's
yeah.
fine. I'm
So
selling it.
that's
He identified
logical.
the guy.
Yeah.
I understand the embarrassment for the young man, and here's the deal. So I grew up in a time where it's like lesson learned, son.
Right.
Had
Opposed.
this happened to me,
Yeah.
and I was humiliated, my dad would have said, Well, I guess next time you're going to verify
Right.
what this thing is
Right.
before you buy
Yeah.
it.
Well, and it's like the other cop said. He grew up riding dirt bikes and
Right.
four-wheelers, and until he became a cop, he never ran a VIN.
Right.
Because you just assume when somebody has a bill of sale and the VIN numbers
Right.
on it, that it's not stolen.
Yeah.
I mean, in that, I mean, and I'm a guy who rides four-wheelers. I hunt, and I've bought four-wheelers from people. Nobody goes and runs a VIN. But you don't need a license for it. You're not riding it on the street. Mine stayed at the deer camp. So, I mean, who's...
Possession of stolen property usually requires some degree of investigation other than you've got it and it's stolen. Because there's a lot of ways you can come to be in possession of stolen property.
Yep.
I mean,
Yeah.
it can pass through a lot of hands before it ends up in your hands.
Yeah.
And you can be duped and not even know it was stolen.
That's right.
Yeah. And a personal experience, my father bought a stolen car. So, yeah, he bought it from an individual, and he wound up it going back to the owner, and he was just out all his money.
When it comes to body cams, is that something that's relatively new, right? I mean, within the last 5 years?
In some police departments, yeah.
And it's starting to be where they're trying to make it where all police officers would need to wear that. Now, they have to activate it, because I think one of the clips I had is like, I didn't start it, but I did start it once this happened. And then they started the...
From what I understand, I was talking to a friend of mine, and the kind that the department he works for has, there's some kind of a proximity thing. So if he steps out of the car, it automatically turns on, and they're not able to turn it off.
Yeah, so the
that's-
technology is evolving, but that those cameras, who do you think that's to protect most, the cop or the other person?
Yes.
Yeah.
The answer is
Some
yes.
would say that it's really meant to
because it does protect both.
Protect the other person.
There are so many instances, and I can name. I mean, just like this guy who used to be on a city council in Mckinney, who lied about what the cops did to him, but the body cam footage showed that no, they were professional. They talked to him nicely. He said they called him all kind of racial epithets and cursed him out. Well, when the body cam footage came out, they proved that he was a lie. So the body cam footage
It does help. I mean,
it can help the police, but it can also help the.
So it's really
the
it's
citizen.
neutral. It's beneficial for both.
Yeah.
And do you think that will, like, our justice system? You think that will be something that will evolve to be cases that previously, before the body cams, may have gone a different direction? That these cameras now are going to change the way people are prosecuted.
It may change the way police in some neighborhoods.
Did you wear one when you were? No, it didn't come out yet.
No, I started policing in 1989.
No, they didn't have them back then.
There weren't cameras in cars or anything like
If
that.
you had to wear, I mean, I try to imagine at my work, if I had to wear a camera when I went somewhere and somebody said, no, last week you said this, and you're like, oh, shit.
Well, the problem with that comes where Greg catches me at Kroger stealing a pack of cigarettes. He gives me a good tongue lashing and says, dude, go to school, do
Yes.
it. And he goes and talks to the manager and everything's fine. Where then he catches you shoplifting somewhere and he takes you to jail. Somebody else looks at that body cam footage and they're going to say
Why didn't you
arrest the other kid? And we all know that there are times where police ought to have the discretion to say, this
just because
guy,
you can doesn't mean you should.
exactly. But when you start getting body cam and you get outside folks looking at him, these police commissions, and then that basically takes away the discretion from the officer to be able to do his job in the way it needs to, what I call community policing. Because some kids need a tongue lashing. Other kids need to go to jail.
Yeah.
And the same for adults. I mean, you pull a guy over for going 80 and a 50, you can give him a warning or you can give him a ticket.
Tell me if you agree with this. The majority of people think that cops can do pretty much whatever they want.
Yeah, that is not true.
No,
Some cops think they can do whatever they want.
Right. I'm fairly certain that is not the case, but the perception. You know how perception is a big deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the perception of If you're with a cop, it's your word against them. The body cam helps with that.
Right.
But this kind of arrogance that they can do whatever they want, and if I were to challenge it, I have a very small chance of winning. Why? Because there's a whole police department, and they have these. What are some of the rules? What'd you call them?
The police commissions or whatever.
Their immunity.
Qualified immunity.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
Well, what that means is most states have it, and it means that so long as you're acting under color of law in your official capacity of your office, whatever office that is, because that immunity goes to more than just police. But in other words, so long as you were acting under your color of office and following the law, or at least you in good faith believed that what you were doing followed the law, then you as an individual can be free from getting sued. That does not mean the city can't be sued or the county can't be sued or whoever it is. But what it means is you as an individual, because you are acting under color of law, an office that you hold, you can't personally be held liable.
Right.
That's all that means.
Were there scenarios that you saw or witnessed or are a part of that came into question? And you're like, oh, geez. Well, Bill, we think he probably made the wrong decision. But if we can at least say that he thought that he was doing the right thing, he might be able to get out of this one.
Usually when...
You probably have to prove intentional negligence.
Yes.
To get around that.
It's pretty... This is
and it's
something
probably
that's
hard to prove.
Yeah, well, it's thrown around a lot that, we need to take away qualified immunity and blah, 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 blah. I don't think that's the case. Most times, if people have genuinely screwed up, that immunity is not going to be there. They've done something outside of what they should be doing.
And patterns are things that you should be able to look. This police officer has never had a situation like this before. Benefit of the doubt. If there is a track record, well, he's had numerous complaints. I'm just driving. I'm not drunk. I'm not high. I don't have weapons in the car. Is being detained for 30 minutes or so fair, legal, or even necessary?
What happened to me, where I was out there for 35 minutes, was not fair, was not, in my opinion, legal, and it wasn't necessary. When he pulled me over, he treated me as though I was a criminal, even though I'm not. He said he pulled me over because the light over my back license plate was out.
Yeah, that's called felony, no license plate light.
That's just not fair. That's not fair.
So that's why I immediately became...